In this video, we will show you how to replace your front lower control arm bracket on the Chevy Trailblazer. This is part of your front suspension located behind your front wheel. Let's get into it. Okay friends, let's get started on our job. Safely raise and support the front of the vehicle so your wheel's off the ground with the suspension hanging. Once you've done that, we'll continue on to removing the center cover, all 6 of our 19mm lug nuts, and then the wheel. Now that we have the wheel out of the way, we have a clear view of our front sway bar link. You can see that there's a 21mm nut holding this in place to the lower control arm. Let's remove this nut. Now that we have that broken free, the next thing we'll do is continue on with a 21mm wrench here, and we'll use an Allen head socket directly in the center to continue removing that nut. Now that we have that loose, we'll continue with our 21mm wrench right on that nut. We'll use a 7mm Allen head socket directly in the center of this. Slide this out of here, give it a quick inspection. As for ours, the boot came off. You just want to make sure you press that on there so no moisture or debris makes its way in. We'll set that aside for now. Now we can start separating the control arm from the control arm bracket. To do this, we'll be using two 21mm, one to remove the nut and the other to hold the bolt. You need to pay attention to the mounting bolts here. They come through from the rear towards the front. When we go to install these, you want to install them in the exact same position. A little bit of movement from that one. We'll leave this in place for now and continue and do the same to the rear. Here. Now we can start removing each of those bolts. For this rearward one, you just have to slide it underneath the power steering rack. It might be a little bit of a tight fit. Now we can start removing those mounting bolts. Now the next thing we'll do is take hold of the control arm, carefully start pulling it away from the vehicle and down gently. While doing so, we need to be extremely careful not to damage the axle by pulling this out and away too far. May have to use a pry bar. There we are. Once you have the control arm separated from the bracket, we can start removing the bracket from the frame. For this, you'll find that you have 3 21mm headed bolts, 2 along the back side here, and 1 right up along the front. Let's start in the back. Use a pry bar and carefully start pulling the bracket out and away. Once we have it slid away from the frame, we'll bring it right out through here. Make our way around a little bit here. There it is, friend. All right, let's get ready to install our control arm bracket. We'll take this and we'll put it in place. We have to align all 3 of our mounting bolt holes. We had 1 along the front and 2 for the back side there. So we want to make sure you have it in the proper position. Go ahead and align it and slide it in. You may have to apply a little bit of pressure or even give it a loving bonk with a rubber mallet. Check that real quick and get the bolt through there. Once you feel as though you have it properly aligned, we'll continue on with our mounting bolts. Go ahead and start them in by hand. You can use your socket if it makes it a little bit easier. We just want to make sure it does not cross thread into place. Once we have this one started, we'll do the same to the other 2, and then we'll continue on by tightening them up. Now that they're all started, we'll bottom them out. Once they're snug, you can go ahead and torque these. The front bolt is 192 foot-pounds. Move along to the 2 rear bolts. These are torqued to 170 foot-pounds, a little less. Let's get this aligned. Now we can start putting in our bolts. Start with a rearward mounting bolt. This comes through from the rear towards the front, and then we'll start on our mounting nut. Tap this in. Start this nut on here. If you want to use some thread locker, we'll call it your prerogative. Before you tighten that, we've got our front bolt. Let's apply some pressure underneath this lower control arm. We need to bring this up into the original ride height position, and then we can continue on by tightening those 2 control arm bolts. Back over at those control arm bolts, we'll be using 2 21 millimeters. We'll hold the bolt side, tighten the nut. This one right here. And now we'll torque each of these to 96 foot-pounds. Release pressure from under your lower control arm, and we'll continue on to that sway bar link. We can get the nut on here. Continue tightening that nut, and then we'll torque it to 17 foot-pounds. If you find that the stud of the sway bar link spins while you're trying to tighten it, just continue using your 7mm to hold that stud still. Now we can install our wheel. Start on all 6 of your 19mm lug nuts. We'll bottom these out, get the wheel back on the ground, and we can torque these to 100 foot-pounds. With the wheel safely on the ground, we'll torque these in a crisscross manner. If you have a center cover, you can put that on now. Have a look along the backside. You'll find that you have a small diagram of a valve stem. This is the valve stem on your wheel. We'll align this area and tap it into place. Okay, friend, we've got our vehicle back together. At this point, take it for a road test, listen for funny noises, and get yourself safely down to your local alignment shop. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.